So the question is, how awake are you? It's 9:06. I apologize. And I was trying to mash some buttons before we were getting into things. It's going to be a busy show. Straight up busy. It is going to be Bart when he can figure out how awake he is. And we'll see if Bart is on his second, third, or fourth cup of coffee. Jarrett's here, Matty Cruz on the ones and twos. Hopefully we can catch up with Jason before practice at Mercedes-Benz this morning for Atlanta United. 10 o'clock, Keeler Hodges and the Band of Renown from the USL show joining us to preview that season. 10:30, as always, to wrap up hour number 2 on our Thursdays. We get the Pacific perspective from our buddy Niko Moreno, El Rolo NW from Pulso Sports, and from the Soccer Bar. But I figured as we bring in Bart and we bring in Jarrett, I'm just going to go ahead and, yes, Bart coffee, definitely, no doubt about it. I'm just going to go ahead and start things off. For those that were not awake at 1:10 this morning, basically, what were you doing 8 hours ago? I imagine part of it had to do with this if you were, in fact, awake, courtesy of our friends at Paramount Plus and CONCACAF.
This could end it. Jesse Fleming, the Canada captain, taking on the responsibility of leading this new era in the women's national side. With the game at her feet, save for a third time by Nair! She saved 3, she converted 1. Alyssa Nair has almost single-handedly sent the United States into the Women's Gold Cup final.
First off, I'm going to do the rock bit here, and definitely, I mean, seriously, it's right there. It was that there was no doubt Chris Whittingham. This was the Alyssa Nair game as we bring in Bart Keeler to kick things off. How awake are you, sir, and what cup of coffee are you on?
I'm awake. We had a big cup.
Did
so
you
we're halfway
sleep?
through a
No,
very
that's the
big
question.
Cup. Yeah, it's Jarrett. It was a late night, and we thought that we'd get done earlier than we thought twice.
Yeah.
But the soccer god said, "No, we're all suffering, but also being happy together."
You East Coast people, I scoff at you. You and your 10-15 kick.
Reminder that CONCACAF originally had this game, the 1-4 game, kicking off at 4 p.m. local. So obviously they changed it because the two, the marquee matchup, in theory, was this game. But the U.S. was, in theory, going to also be playing in this game anyway. If you're mapping out what you would suppose would happen, you would expect the U.S. to probably be the number 1 seed. And they would have been in this game anyway at 4 p.m. local instead of what ended up being 10:15 East Coast time.
Hey, from a TV perspective and a programming perspective, you get late prime for the East Coast, you get your prime time for your West Coast, and it took up the entire prime time window till about 10.
John, we very quickly got out of prime time.
Oh yeah, we did. I'm saying you got the late prime with all of this. Maddie's crashed now as well. So.
Prime time didn't exist.
No.
Yeah. It's not bad enough that you played this game at you finished at 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It didn't help that you played the game in a baptismal pool.
Which, again, wouldn't have happened had you played this game at the 4 p.m. time slot as it originally had been scheduled.
Yeah. So I know Bart and I actually were going back in conversations, and I know that a lot of folks also did not quite understand protocol for determining, okay, can't the ref do something about this? The ref could to a point, and you saw that in the first 3.5 to 4 minutes where the ref looks over at the match coordinator. And this is what you were seeing off screen. So basically, center ref walking up the pitch, otherwise known as the Snapdragon slip and slide, and looks to her left off camera toward the bottom of the screen as we were watching, and basically is trying to prove to the match coordinator this ain't happening. The ball is not rolling. We're not getting anything out of this. And what they affectionately refer to as crap dragon, apparently, in San Diego, because of all of the corners that they allegedly cut to make this stadium. Ball's not rolling. Thing ain't draining. And you could see the captains, Bart, Jesse Fleming and Lindsey Horan, kind of sitting there going, well, we can't really do anything. But match coordinator didn't flinch, and they had to play on.
Yeah, this was so yes, the laws of the game specify that the referee has the authority to play or not play a match. That is valid. That's not true when you're in a competitive tournament, right? You can go back to the Steve Cherundolo gets fined because he whines too much game. And that was an MLS decision to play that game. That's not the referee going, yeah, we're still good. That is something that a match commissioner or, tournament official or someone is making that call ultimately. Because in this type of setting, you can't just not play this match, A. B, if you postpone the match, you've already sold tickets. And C, if you play this today, well, now one team is going to be at a disadvantage come Sunday.
Correct.
And so that is the three reasons really why this match was played. Now, I do think this match very easily could have been delayed to wait for the rain to stop and for the field to be squeegeed. But also this is the one of the major downsides, if not, this major downside of CONCACAF loving a doubleheader is had this game been played at another site, right? They could have had a tarp on this field up until almost the moment of kickoff, or when warm up started, whatever.
Right.
And maybe the field would not have been in bad of shape, because remember, they had a game before this and the rain started, I think, right toward the end of that game, but it also wasn't exactly like it was sunny and 75 in the match, before it. So it was going to get played. I do think they could have delayed it about 30 minutes for the rain to stop, and then they try to squeegee things off, but they had to play it. They had to.
Jarrett for Bart, go.
Okay, getting away from the stupidity. First of all, a side note, not my official question. Steve Cherundolo's comments after this game would have been gold. He probably would have popped the blood vessel or three. Aside from that, as far as this roster goes, I know we talked after the Colombia game about some of the young players really showing out and showing something. How much do you take away from a game like this and I know it's Canada, but the conditions were just so trash. Like, how much can you take away from it?
Well, first off, it is Canada. It's your biggest rival in the region, despite what Mexico wants to think of themselves. They can enjoy their trophy of beating us in a group stage. So congrats, Mexico. But it is Canada, and that is the toughest team you're going to play in this region. It's the team that is the reigning gold medalist. I think that plays a lot into it, but also I think that you still have players who are learning what it means to win for the U.S. women's national team. I'm going to harp on her for 5 seconds, so I'm sorry, because she did score and she did get her penalty kick. But Sophia Smith at the end there, the reason the goal is scored by Canada is because Sophia Smith didn't control the ball to kill off the game. She got a long ball basically played up to her, and I don't know if it was intentional or not, because who knows what was actually an intentional touch, pass, kick, shot, whatever on that field last night.
Yeah.
But her touch went toward goal instead of, like they had been doing, taking it toward the corner flag. Now, I think they may have started the whole take it to the corner flag a little too early, but the reality is the way that game was going, taking the ball to the corner flag meant it was going to take Herculean efforts to get the ball across even midfield, let alone the goal. So I think that's a learning curve for herself. It's cool and cute to go score goals. That's great. But at some point, you got to know this is not the time to go score a goal. This is the time to kill off a game.
Maddie Cruz for Bart Keeler.
Personally, you know how I said I was going to get a Rodeman jersey? I think I might be getting an Alyssa Nair jersey.
Listen, they do need to sell the keeper jerseys again.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. She had an outstanding night. Not only having so many great saves in the PK, but then also taking a PK herself.
Oh, you mean this? He said, comma, ... And
now she takes third. Still can't believe her tipping onto the post in the World Cup knocked them out. A chance for redemption. Nair into the bottom corner. This is the Alyssa Nair game.
Well, my goodness. Saves two, steps up. Last second opens up their hips, slots it into the far corner. What a penalty kick that is.
There you go. So, yes, once again, courtesy of our friends at Paramount Plus and CONCACAF. Chris
listen.
Lindsay Lake.
Listen, she can do both.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, I know that it's been like a huge thing of like, getting in those younger players and, all that stuff. And like, I've been a big proponent in that because you want to see that young talent. But holy crap. If Alyssa Nair keeps playing like this, man, she might be on here for a little longer.
It's hard to take her out when she is, and even throughout the game, she was very good. I know we can talk about the goal that tied it at the end. That was a little bit more unlucky than it was bad. And she still got a punch off. So, props to her for that. But it was a really good performance from Alyssa, because even throughout the game, she was quick off her line when she needed to be. She was not coming off her line when she didn't need to. She was secure. The ball, she caught the ball every time. It wasn't like we were having, balls bounce around. And to be frank, she was playing against the best goalkeeper in the world right now in Kaylin Sheridan, and ultimately got the better of her. And I think, again, outside of maybe being half a second too late to that ball at the very end, which I would also say that, maybe her defenders could have helped her out by shielding off the runner a little bit. But that was weird why Fleming is getting Gilles was getting a full-on free run into the box there. But it was a fantastic game from Alyssa Nair, and she continues to show. She's always been underrated, but she always rises to the occasion when we need it. And this is just another. Listen, if anything, this is karma for the fact that she actually saved the penalty back in Melbourne over the summer.
Let's see. So I think Opta came up with the number, and it is in a penalty kick situation. Alyssa Nair has now saved 6 of her last 14. Which is insane.
So really 7 of her last 14, because
amen, Jarrett. Amen.
and go for it, Jarrett.
I wanted to ask you a question from a refereeing perspective, Bart, because the game was sloppy because of the field conditions. How difficult is it to officiate a game like that, where like players are sliding around? There might be challenges that look bad where there's no ill intent. On a normal field, there wouldn't be a problem, but like they just took off because they hydroplane. How tough is it to officiate that kind of game?
Well, I think that it played a little bit of a factor into the decision to not call a penalty against Tierna Davidson. She got enough of the ball first off. Whether or not it was enough, but like it was one of those where no one was in control of that ball.
Yeah,
no one was in control of themselves, and it felt all night like I was watching a U12 or a U10 game that I ref, right? Where it's like they're all trying to do something. We're not quite entirely sure if they mean to do what they're doing. And the ball is somewhere on this field around a bunch of people, and no one's really in control.
Yeah, I would imagine that it's a bit of you have to have even more focus than you normally would because of conditions. And it's almost like you're playing with ankle weights the entire time because of how everything gets waterlogged and the inability to move and all these kinds of things. Yeah. I would think that, officials have to focus that much more in these kinds of situations.
Yeah, this one's tough. Same as the players who are dealing with heavy legs, heavy boots, heavy socks, heavy kits, heavy everything. Mm-hmm. The referees are doing it as well. And I thought they did well, actually. I thought they had a pretty good game, all things considered. And, I think that the problems with the game weren't the referee.
Yeah.
And I thought that she actually tried to solve the problem with the game and then was told, no, keep playing. So I would give her a lot of props for that. It was the other one last night. I mean, again, I think that there's no way this game wasn't going to get played last night. I still think they could have easily had a delay to just squeegee off the field.
Yeah. Soccer for US PODs at Bartimus Prime 19 hanging out with us. Bart Keeler for Soccer for US, the Soccer for US pod. And I know that you're going to be kind of busy this weekend on a bunch of different fronts. It's going to be the CONCACAF in Brazil team going up against the U.S. in the final. But before we get to the final, one other thing that I think got lost in all of the sauce last night is that the latest of late substitutions by Canada was not a substitution that is, how do we phrase this, legal.
Yeah, this was weird when I saw it live, and there's been things going around on Twitter, and we're just not sure because Christina Unkel was very clear to say that should not have allowed, and had something happened, the U.S. probably could have protested.
Yeah.
The sub before the penalty kicks is not anywhere in the laws of the game. In fact, it's very clear in the laws of the game that the 11 players, or 10 if you have a red card, or 9 or whatever, depending on if you're Lazio playing a Christian Pulisic and you have like 7, those are the players who are available to take your penalty kicks. So you do have to get those subs on before the end of the game. I mean, we saw this again going back to the World Cup this summer, that we had to get our players in right before the end. So no, it should not have been allowed. I've read through the CONCACAF guidelines. I've read through, obviously, the IFAB laws of the game. And there's nothing in here that would provide for that. And Alex, you may have read it was a concussion sub. There's nothing in the CONCACAF guidelines for this tournament, the regulations for this tournament, that make provisions for a concussion sub, period.
Okay.
So it may have been. You're right, because the player who was subbed out was the one that Alyssa Nair sucker punched.
Yeah.
But
plowed through.
That wasn't part of what was allowed. That's not part of the competition regulations. That's not part of something that IFAB. This is a gray area. I mean, if it is a concussion sub, truly, that's not part of the provisions in the laws of the game. That's not part of the provisions in the competition regulations. So I think that this was probably something that, you're right, they probably thought, oh, it's a concussion, we'll sub her.
Yeah.
But again, I still don't think it was valid. If anything, you would have just said, well, she can't play, so we're both down to 10 players.
Right.
Well, also, just to tag back on that, they said it was for concussion substitution. They did say that. Can't find it in the rules where it is. This is from Christina Unkel as well. But the concussion sub, if this is the case, was used after extra time.
Right.
It was not used during the injury before PKs began.
Right. And that's the problem here, is that even if it is a concussion sub, there's no talk about that at the end of regulation before penalty kicks, which IFAB is very clear on how that works. Hold on, let me go pull out the law of the game.
With the exception of a substitute for a goalkeeper who is unable to continue, only players who are on the field of play or are temporarily off the field of play, parenthesis, injury, adjusting equipment, etc., close parenthesis, at the end of the match are eligible to take kicks.
Yep. And so again, it seems very clear, because it even talks about injury, that player was technically on the field of play at the end of regulation. She should have to be part of the penalty kick shootout. Their sub should not have happened. So Canada cheated and still didn't win. They didn't even get to the player that they cheated with, because Alyssa Nair is better than the entire country of Canada at soccer.
So you're saying that Alyssa Nair should be anointed the new Prime Minister of Canada, or the Overlord of Canada?
Actually, honestly, I'm going to write her in November. I'll tell you that much.
Okay.
Build the statue.
As you said. Oh, also, never mind the fact that Canada's keeper went down with a quote-unquote injury.
Yes.
So their coach could break out the whiteboard in the second
half.
Yes.
Kaylin Sheridan, great at cheating. I'm sorry. Gamesmanship. I'm so sorry.
Convenient injuries, sir. Well,
she's done this before. Look, Canada tried, and this is the thing, right? Like, we're entering the fandom and ish talking section.
There you go. There it is. Okay.
Mexico got one on us. Congratulations, Mexico. You won a group stage match in a CONCACAF tournament that you got eliminated in the semifinals for. Congratulations. You still don't have a trophy. Enjoy whatever medal you get for beating us in a tournament. Congrats. We still are the best team in this region. Canada tried, and they, even after beating us in penalty kicks or beating us in the Olympics, right? Their entire goal in life is to beat the U.S. in any single game, and they finally accomplished it in 2021. After that, they ain't beating us. We're still the best in CONCACAF, and I know that's not what we're actually shooting for, right? Like we want to be the best in the world again, but we're still the best team in CONCACAF. We got a chance to win the W Gold Cup after not looking good against Mexico, after being beaten, bruised, and battered against Colombia, a team that forgot that they have to actually play soccer for about 35 minutes. And then, a team in Canada who thought it was cute. They were going to try to come out here and beat us. And they didn't. They didn't. And they had to play on the same field we did.
Yep. And according to Twyla Kilgore, post-match, she said on Alyssa Nair taking the PK, she goes, quote, "Everything that you saw tonight was pre-planned. It's a nod to our confidence in her." So basically your keeper, you had lined up third in your PK rundown. You didn't blink twice about it, and she smashed it in the back of the net. So early thoughts from 30,000 feet as we head into a CONCACAF final against a team that the United States knows is not in CONCACAF.
Well, look, Brazil is still one of the top teams in the world. I think they are not where they used to be, but they're trying to get, and that's kind of their goal for this tournament, is to prove that they are back to being an elite team. There's been so much talk about the US's fall from, superiority in this game, but no one's talking about the fact that Brazil didn't make the knockout rounds of, the World Cup, and they've been not great over the past couple tournaments. So Brazil is kind of in that same boat as the US of they feel like they need to prove that they're an elite team in the world. And they haven't, they looked good against Mexico despite, getting an iffy red card, but it's Mexico, so I don't really have any sympathy for them. They still took advantage of that. They scored, they put two past them after the red card. They had already scored. They were already winning at the time of the red card. So suck it, Mexico. You still were losing. And sorry, the Mexico fans have been
I know.
Annoying.
This is where Bart straddles the line and he'll jump from one side to the other. Literally, it's that episode of MASH when Hawkeye was stuck inside the swamp and Frank Burns goes, "I can step in, I can step out, I can step in, I can step out, in, out, in, out." And that's what you're seeing with Bart right now. He's stepping in and out of the swamp discussing things this morning.
My extensive knowledge of MASH.
I'll send you the YouTube clip. I'll send it to you.
But no, this is a good matchup because you have the best team from CONMEBOL, also obviously playing the best team from CONCACAF. This is ultimately probably what you wanted. And if you're looking at ticket sales for a tournament that has not been promoted and marketed well by CONCACAF, which that was a question we heard when we talked about this at the beginning, will they promote and market this well? And shocker, CONCACAF didn't. But this is still the matchup that you probably would have wanted because you've got the two best teams in the respective regions and probably the most eyes from the rest of the world watching it.
All right. So what are the plans for Soccer for US POD once you get in a nap?
Well, so now we know that we're in the final. So we'll record after the final, probably Monday, to talk about this tournament. And, we did record about the fact that we lost to Mexico and it was bad. There's no doubt about it. You can't.
They were the better
pretend
team.
Like it was a good game because it wasn't. This has been a great response in both games. The Colombia game was a great response for a number of reasons, winning 3-0, getting 3 goals in the first half, putting it to bed, not having to worry about the second half. This was a different type of game against a team that, has been so pesky for their entire existence. And the fact that you beat them in unideal conditions is, and quite honestly, you were the team who adapted best to the conditions. That says a lot about this team's character, and maybe a little bit about the fact that the mentality of the U.S. women's national team is coming back. And that would be nice.
Yep. And obviously you'll be back here on Monday to break things down before Soccer for US POD is published.
Because that game on Sunday starts at 8:15.
Yeah.
So
that one's a little better. So
so if we go to penalty kick, extra time and penalty kicks,
we'll still be in bed by 11 Eastern. That's all good.
We're looking at midnight bedtime.
Yes. So Bart's going to enjoy his second cup of coffee. As always, Bartimus Prime 19 on the 280 character app in the Soccer for US POD. Bart, go get your nap in. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend.
Y'all enjoy home opener this weekend. Enjoy it.
All right. There's Bart. So Bart, like I said, he's going to probably have his 9th cup of coffee, and he's going to go get in a nap. And so that's the beginning of Thursday. We've got news from a bunch of different places to get into, still seeing if Jason can hop on here in this half hour before practice for Atlanta United at Mercedes-Benz. Speaking of Atlanta United, I'm not going to do a breaking news sounder because it's not breaking news. Go to Germán García Grova's account, and as we ask you, when it comes to sourcing for things like this, check your Tier 1 sources. Germán García Grova is a Tier 1 source on the 280 character app. He posted before the show this morning that Thiago Almada is being sought by Botafogo, and the number right now is 20 million. Botafogo has made a formal offer of $20 million, 20 million US, according to Germán García Grova, for Thiago Almada. We all know that Thiago Almada wants to go to the next frontier, wherever that is. Obviously, he's still under contract until the end of 26. John Texter, quoted by Grova, "We want it. It's a figure in U.S. dollars. In the future, it'll be worth 50 million euros," said Texter, owner of the club. Texter is not wrong. That kind of a value, he is quite correct when it comes to the value of a player like Thiago Almada. Texter is also co-owner. He's one of those multi-club model guys. Crystal Palace, co-owner, along with Josh Harris and that group. Owner of Botafogo, Molenbeek, and the Olympique Lyon group, Olympique Lyonnais group. So it's OL Feminine, and OL Reign. I don't quite see Thiago being a part of the OL group, unless it's Lyon. But the Botafogo side of John Texter has put a $20 million deal on the table. Keep coming. It ain't going to be 20. It's going to be more than 20. But as we always know, in situations like this, numbers are put out there, and it's all about the negotiations. Yes, Texter's correct that in the future, Thiago could be worth 50 million euro. That is accurate. And that is why 20 million is just starting to kick the tires. You're in the showroom, you like the car, you like the shiny new paint job, you kick the tires on it. How about 20? Come back with another bid. So right now, that came out at 8:55 this morning. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on that as we go. And like I said, we know the situation with Thiago wanting to go to Europe, and we went through all of the Atletico Madrid stuff and all of that. So John Texter is now apparently on the table with a $20 million bid for the Botafogo version of John Texter's soccer ownership group. Keep it coming. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go, as we get closer to windows and things like that. David might be kind of in the ballpark, 20 million, 50% of the pass that this is getting done. What I would say, and this is what we talked about with Atletico Madrid, you're looking at 30 and a portion right. Ricky's like, if it don't start with a 3, don't talk to me. And so I think that Ricky's spot on here. And that's the thing. If it's full and complete, bringing of the pass, if it don't start with a 3, don't talk to me. If you're into the 2s, the lower the 2s you get, the more percentage of the pass I'm going to want to hang on to. So There you go.
Yeah.
So Ricky is spot on. David spot on as well. Ricky says, did they have the audacity to say in the future he'll be worth 50 million euro and then think he can only offer us 20 million bucks? Yeah. So that was, like I said, that's from Herman Garcia Grova's 280 character exposition this morning, a little before 9 o'clock. So we'll keep an eye on that, obviously. Put a bookmark in Botafogo and John Texter and the 20 million. Dell, I'm going to catch up on hellos. Morning, Dell. Dell was up till 1:30. You ain't the only one, brother. That's why we let off with Bart and his coffee. Morning, Alex. And we do have the update there with Steve Cherundolo. We'll get into that. And we welcome our friends once again on the West Coast who are having their early cup of coffee. They got to watch the match last night in San Diego in real time and got to bed at a decent hour, unlike the rest of us. So morning from Orange County, salute back. Yes, David says he might need an afternoon nap. You aren't the only one. So, yeah, so that's what we're staring at. Now, do you remember this particular moment in time from the weekend? I'm going to ask, and we will see if you remember these words from a particular coach.
Steve, difficult conditions to play in. What kind of positive takeaways can you take away from this match and the fight?
I'm not sure there are any positives other than we didn't have any injuries. It was not difficult conditions, impossible conditions. An absolute joke that we had to play today. Not safe for the players. One of the worst professional sporting events I've ever seen in my life. I feel terrible for the players. We put them through this. Game could have been and should have been called many times beforehand. In my opinion, an absolute disgrace that we played today.
We'll go to questions. Tom Boger and then Josh Gross, please.
Thanks for taking the time, Steve. Yeah, you kind of answered the question I was going to say of whether or not you thought that this game should have been played and what the options are. But, again, you already touched on that, but feel free to expand.
No reason to expand. It's just poor decision-making and unsafe conditions for players. And thankfully, nobody got injured. I think we dodged a big bullet. But it just nothing good comes out of these games. And you prepare all week for obviously normal conditions, and you prepare teams with certain tactics. And when it gets that crazy and that unplayable, nothing you do in preparation matters. So I'm just don't understand why on earth we would count a game like that, or even finish a game or play a game.
Because of those comments, and what we like to do here at the morning show is do more than just a soundbite. I wanted to give it a little bit more breathing room so everybody understands the full frustration that Steve Cherundolo had. Because he voiced those frustrations, he is a lot lighter in the wallet. Yesterday, MLS announced that he has been fined $10,000 for those comments made following the match. The comments are in violation. This is from the league and league communications. The comments are in violation of the league's public criticism policy. Literally, the headline is MLS fined Steve Cherundolo for public criticism. Violation of the league's public criticism policy. Steve Cherundolo is now $10,000 lighter for basically that minute and a half of content. So, like I said, we talked about it, and we went over the notion that, Salt Lake scored 3 times in the same conditions. And
Exactly. I mean, listen, I get being upset. I get that, that's not a where you normally play.
Mm-hmm.
I said it last week, and I'll say it again. I'm like, Real Salt Lake, they saw what was in front of them, and they played well. They were able to score 3 goals.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all weren't able to do anything like that. Y'all tried to play a tactical game of soccer, but in that condition, you can't do that. And they're just upset that they got beat. They're upset they got beat, and they're upset, and they're trying to make up excuses because they don't want to lose. And I'm sorry. I'm like, if you go into this match and you know that this is the weather condition, plan accordingly. And I know that it was one of those things where it kind of started, you didn't know it was going to happen. But I mean, listen, Real Salt Lake was able to pull it off, and I think they're just upset that they didn't get the win out of it.
Yeah. Question from Emilio, who pays manager and player fines. I think the team does. They sit there and they'll look at your direct deposit account, and they may just, if they believe in you, They may just have a kitty, and they may just have like a bucket off to the side, in the league office or something. It's like, okay, what do we need out of petty cash? Okay, so 10 grand. We believe you, Steve Cherundolo. We're going to pay the 10 grand out of the bucket of petty cash we have here in the office. So unless it's a direct deposit zap inside the office, I guess it is something out of the franchise coffers. And like I said, they might have a safe on hand or something like that. I don't know. But I imagine that the team does when it comes to all of this. And speaking of, we got 10 good minutes or so. Jason, when did you end up falling asleep this morning?
It was, I don't know, not that long ago, it seems like, after watching that chaotic mess of a match out in San Diego last night.
Yeah, we were talking about it with Bart. We let off with it this morning, and we disclosed the Opta number of the ridiculousness of Alyssa Nair between the sticks, saving 6 of her last 14, which is truly insane when it comes to those kinds of situations and the pressure that's attached.
You ask a goalkeeper, and it's an ask. It's never expected. I think there is a very clear misunderstanding in the conversation about shootouts and about goalkeepers. Penalties are converted. I mean, XG is 0.79 or 0.78, depending on which model you're looking at. That's 78, 79% that are made. That's actually come down some. But in a shootout situation, one save. You're asking for one save if possible. 2 is crazy. 3 is on another planet. And then you combine it with converting one yourself, and that will be one of the legendary performances in a knockout match for the U.S. women's national team. Just amazing, dealing with all the craziness, dealing with really the inability to be able to play normal soccer, adjusting, going into the lead the second time, but bouncing back. The women's national team needed these last 2 games where they weren't pretty, they had an edge to them, or they had crazy conditions to deal with, and you survive in advance. They needed to get back to that kind of feel, and they have. So this final on Sunday is going to be a lot of fun.
No doubt about it. Before we get into the discussion about this weekend, I gotta hit a button because it kind of ties into it. From our friends at the New England Revolution, and this was announced before the show started. Well, technically, as the show was going on in the A block. The New England Revolution captain midfielder Carlos Heel has signed a multi-year contract extension guaranteed through 26, with an additional 1-year club option for 27, continuing to occupy a DP slot on New England's roster. And they go through all of the stuff that he has accomplished while he's been in New England. You include quotes from both Carlos Heel and from Kurt Onalfo, and the third paragraph from head coach Caleb Porter, continuing with more things that he's accomplished. So the Revs have re-signed captain Carlos Heel through 26 with an option for 27 as we get ready for the weekend.
Yeah, no surprise there. The biggest thing about Carlos Heel is he didn't have to play last night for New England. So was able to sit on the bench, watch a comprehensive win, not have to play. And that comprehensive win maybe changes the expectations a little bit when you get to Saturday, because it's always a street fight when you go down and play Alajuelense in Costa Rica. But with a 4-goal cushion, it gives Caleb Porter a little more license to play his primary guys on Saturday against Atlanta United and rotate more on Wednesday. You still want something in the tank in case things get crazy from your top guys, but I would have wondered if Carlos Heel would have played on Saturday. After not playing last night, winning big, my guess is he starts on Saturday.
Matty Cruz for Jason Longshore, go.
I completely agree. And I think one of the biggest things that we kind of talked about on Monday, like going into this New England game especially, is how it would fare out, especially with how compact their schedule was. They played last weekend. Now they played yesterday. And then they're coming back in a 3-day turnaround, having to fly out again to Atlanta. So do you expect that there's going to be those tired legs even with that rotation? Do you expect there to be some kind of lag there? Or they haven't won yet. Do you think that they're going to come in hungry for a win here at us against Mercedes-Benz Stadium?
I mean, I think it's both, honestly. Like, I think they're going to be very hungry to get something out of an MLS match because that's been a struggle for them, along with all the other CONCACAF teams playing in league play. It's just, we've seen this, done this. That book's been written many times over the years. But you can't deny the heavy legs. And they've done everything they can do to deal with it, and they'll manage it as best as they can. But facts are facts, and they've played a lot of minutes, and you can rotate guys around. They still played more minutes than Atlanta United, who is chomping at the bit after not playing last week to get back onto the pitch. So nothing changes for me, even after the result last night, outside of somebody like Heel. I think they're going to come in and they're probably going to struggle to get going a little bit. We saw that against Toronto on Sunday. But then once they get going, they'll be fine and they'll play to the level that we expect New England to be, which is a very good team. But then late in the game, and I don't know where that mark is, and it depends on kind of the rotation that we see, you're going to see guys look very tired because they will be very tired. So for me, for Atlanta United, to get back to the five stripe side of it, you've got to start fast, start strong, get something out of the first 15, 20 minutes, ideally. And you've got to be ready to use, I think, really use your bench. And the good thing is everybody's healthy right now, at least to varying degrees. Use that bench late to bring on fresh legs to run at New England's tired team at that point.
When you look at Atlanta United, obviously, match week 1, they get a week off. Now they're getting ready here in match week 3. What has it been like for you when you've been at practice and you've been watching them in the bye week, getting this extra time to have all the new faces continue to integrate into what Gonzalo Pineda and the staff want to do?
Yeah, I talked about it on Atlanta Soccer Tonight on Tuesday. I think seeing that session Tuesday morning, we got to see the whole training session. There was a good level of intensity and communication was good, lots of talking, but you had the session finished with a series of 7v7s and it was intense. And the stuff like, I'm sure everybody who follows players and follows the team on social media, you see the pictures of the winning team after these kinds of activities. And you know, it's fun and it's something, you know, that you'll do at the end of practice, maybe talk a little smack, maybe point some fingers. You want those pictures, but it's also like, it's a little bit of a motivator. And when you get into these kinds of weeks where it's an awkward start to the season, you play and then you have this time off not playing, the intensity has to stay high in training. And sometimes that's hard to do. I think Gonzalo Pineda and his staff have done a really good job, from what I saw Tuesday firsthand, of keeping that intensity as high as it can be, match week style. And I like where they are. You got to perform now. So what it comes down to is you've got some advantages coming into this game on Saturday. You've got to take full advantage because New England's got more miles on their legs right now, and you don't. And you have to use that to your advantage.
And that's why
Go, Maddie, real quick. Just reminding folks, Keeler Hodges and our friends from the USL show coming up in about 10 minutes here on Thursday Thoughts. Go for it, Maddie.
I think that's good to hear, especially just like, you know, I think a big concern, at least for me, was, you know, we didn't play last week. And, you know, we had that momentum going in against Columbus. Obviously, we didn't get the result we wanted, but overall was a decent performance in the second half. And, you know, you wanted to see where this team could go going into the next week, and then you had that bye. And so I think it was a hard balance because, you know, oh, you want the break, but then you also want to continue playing. So it's nice to hear that the team is hungry and that they're ready for this matchup on Saturday and going to perform. But I mean, looking at that, what are your overall expectations going into the game against New England? What do you want to see from United going into this match?
I think a fast start is the key. And I think trying to attack New England's right side is the biggest key. New England hasn't really settled on who's going to play right back, and some of it is down to the number of matches they're playing. We've seen Andrew Farrell there. He hasn't played right back regularly in a long time. He can still do it, but not the same level of pace as a guy like Sean De Silva. Nick Lima, I think, was brought in to be that right back, but he hasn't consistently been the right back. And again, the number of games that you're playing could be a big factor in that. But I think that you've got to start fast. And you think back to games late last season where, and we can even go back to game 2 in the postseason against Columbus, where they consistently tried to attack down the left. You want to attack the opponent's weakness. And to me, that's the weakness. DeJuan Jones, yeah, you want to make him work on the left side. He's going to get forward and cause problems when he gets forward. You want to make him work, but you know that there is a weakness, more of a deficiency on the opposite side. So you want to go after that. I think this is one of those games, and Shande, to me, is one of those players that the more you feed him early, and if he's in that kind of a zone, and players are like this. I think we talk about it probably more from a basketball perspective when guys are in that zone and they're hitting every shot that they put up, and you keep feeding that player. I think Shande's got that kind of a feel as well. You want to feed him early and see where he's at. He pulls a couple skilled moves. He pulls a couple flare moves, gets past the defender on that side. You better feed him again. And if he's on a heater, you keep feeding him because he's going to grow in confidence. But then also it starts to create gaps because the opponent's going to have to slide over and have that center back tuck in a little bit more to the outside and help protect. That winger's going to have to drop and help protect a little bit. That's going to create gaps elsewhere. But for me, this is a game where you want to get Shande going early and often and see where you are after 15, 20 minutes.
Also, I wanted to ask about the 3 new faces that were helping out in match number 1 against Columbus. Bartek Sliš, Derek Williams, Stian Gregerson. What did you think about that triangle, and are you anticipating those same 3 new guys coming in and being there as a part of the matchup against the Revs?
Yeah, I'll finish with this before I get into the stadium for training today.
Yep.
Gregerson and Sliš are not first choice in Sharpie because I don't know if anybody outside of Thiago Almada is and Yorgos Giacomakis, but they've got the inside track to being starters on a regular basis. Derek Williams is the one that maybe caught some people by surprise. Luis Abram took that starting spot late last season, and I think Williams had a great preseason and got it for now. Maybe not in this one. I think when you look at those 2 guys, when you expect to control more of the possession, that lends itself to a Luis Abram start. When it's a little bit more of what we saw in Columbus, maybe a little more 50-50, a little bit more defending, maybe you have to deal with more aerial duels, those sorts of things. Derek Williams can be a starter in those situations. So I think those 2 will rotate as the year goes on. I feel like, and I haven't seen every training session, but I feel like Luis Abram is suited for a game like this, where I think you'll control it and you'll control the possession. But that battle, along with other position battles, is going to be a very key element. Sliš covered a ton of ground. I've mentioned it a couple times over the past couple weeks. He ran more than anyone else in that game against Columbus. That's a good thing and a bad thing. You don't want him to have to cover quite as much ground. You want to get your rotations just a little bit tighter in terms of when the fullbacks go, so Sliš doesn't have to drift out wide to cover gaps. I think if you can have him run a little bit less, you're actually going to get more out of him. But he was very good, and his range of passing is going to be very, very important. And Gregerson, look, we see the pace with him. You can continue to play the very high line. He's very good on the ball. I think in some of these moments in previous years where you have possession, you control the game, you pin a team in, they just keep dropping numbers behind, and you've got to get somebody extra to join the possession attack. Gregerson can be that, and he's very good carrying the ball forward, as is Sliš, by the way. They're very good at carrying the ball forward and making things happen in those regards. So Gregerson and Sliš, I thought, had good matches. They'll get better and better as they build chemistry with the guys around them. I thought Williams had a good match as well, but Williams and Abram, it's a little more 1A, 1B. And this kind of a match where I think you'll have more control of it at home, maybe Luis Abram gets the start.
Broadcast plans on 92.9 The Game.
Normal stuff on Saturday night. We're on the air at 6:30 7:30 with Five Stripes Countdown, an hour-long pregame, the longest in Major League Soccer. That's what we've got for you, 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. Then we'll have a conversation with Garth Lagerway in the middle of that as well. Myself and Mike, Abe Gordon, Garrett Chapman will get you going. They'll lead it into us. Kickoff will be 7:40. Full-time report with the whole gang in the booth at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That will be for an hour afterwards. And you can always download that as a podcast after. But we got you on your ride home as you leave the Benz, hopefully celebrating a home opening win.
All right, partner, go watch practice. We'll see you this weekend.
Adios.
All right, that's Jason. So that's your 4-1-1 as you get ready for Atlanta United and the Revs this weekend. Coming up in short order, it is Keeler Hodges and our friends from the USL show, at Keeler Hodges, at the USL show on the Twitters. And we'll kind of see what's going on in their minds in USL Championship, USL League One, because that season kicks off this weekend. Morning, Harry, and waiting for you. And Harry's in the bullpen. Harry with the San Antonio FC avatar. He's waiting for Keeler and the band to come dropping in to start hour number 2. Kevin, yeah, USA never loses when Albert starts. So do it again, Twyla. Do it again, Twyla Kilgore, and we'll see what happens this weekend. And David, to your point, David says, I think being on a heater item is why Saba stayed on versus Shande last match. One was cooking and the other was not. And so when you got those folks that are feeling it, you don't want to, like you're at the poker table, you're at the table in Vegas, you're sitting there and you're getting those runs and you're getting good hands. You're going to stay at the table. If you start getting really bad hands, you're going to leave the table or you're going to lose your chips more often than not. So it's just keeping an eye on who's hot. Really looking forward to the matchup this weekend and what's going to be going on in front of the lower bowl at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I know that there's been some transactions that we can get into in Major League Soccer. I know that Messi and friends are chasing after yet another midfielder in Matias Rojas. And
another midfielder?
Yeah.
Not a defender? I'm shocked.
Well, there's also the discussion of possibly playoff Franco Escobar from Houston. They're trying to find it. They're trying to figure it out. And we'll see what happens there. Michelle Kaufman over at the Miami Herald. In the span of 48 hours, here's what's happened with Messi and friends. Traded DeAndre Yedlin, transferred Jean Mota to Vitoria, clearing $1.5 million in salary. Also received that lovely number of $172,799 in general allocation money from Cincinnati for Yedlin and a reported $350,000 transfer fee from Vitoria for Mota. Gregory, remember, went to Botafogo. Goes back to our early story in the 9:30, unloading his $961,000 plus salary, excluding Messi, Busquets, Jordi Alba. Gregory, Yedlin, and Mota were the 3 highest paid players remaining on the roster from last year. Their departures clear roughly $3 million in salary, which will be most likely used to buy new players. One of them is Rojas, expected to sign in the coming days. At least one other player could join. That's why I mentioned playoff Franco from Houston, in addition to Rojas, because the transfer window, the primary transfer window for MLS, ends April 23rd. Rojas became a free agent, and that's why you can do this after leaving Corinthians in Brazil due to a contract dispute over unpaid wages, much of it in image rights. Cesar Luis Merlo, another Tier 1 source, was the one to report the news. Reportedly in talks with Boca Juniors and Liga MX sides, but chose to sign with Messi and friends, where he'll play alongside Diego Gomez, his teammate on the Paraguayan national team. Left-footed attacking midfielder, 3 assists in 30 matches since joining Corinthians. Before that, he was with Cerro Porteño, Lanús, Racing Club, and with our friends at Defensa y Justicia. No word if he was with our buddy Becasese and his fantastic flow on the touchline. 14 roster changes for Messi and friends in 2023. And right now, after the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza tonight at Geodis, they get a little bit of time to do that, and then they go back to Chase Stadium to chase around Montreal on your Sunday. It is now 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock Eastern time, and that means that Keeler, who is feverishly trying to hydrate and make sure that everything is okie dokie and copacetic, Keeler Hodges drops by, and it is now time for Keeler to hang out with us for the first time here for the 2024 season. Good to see you, my friend.
I mean, technically twice if you consider the live show.
Well, true. Yes, the live show. We're talking the morning show and the at USL show normal slot. This is the first time as we lead into the 2024 season that you're here to talk about stuff. What's it been like in the off season at the USL show and there in Birmingham, getting everything ready for the 24 season?
And as you know this, but for people who are not into the whole content creation thing for soccer, preseason is the worst because there's just so much to plan and it all stipulates around this could happen. Maybe we'll find out. And I don't know. It's been a blast, though. We've had a lot of great stuff come out. We've released for the Glove of the Games a lot of kit season stuff, and we just have our USL Championship and League One previews come out last week and yesterday. So a lot of good stuff. Just excited for projections to become reality and for us to all be wrong.
Yes. Well, you're talking to the wrong guy if you're talking about stuff that's wrong, especially with me. When it comes to the biggest storylines in USL Championship from the off season, as we get ready for kickoff of the 24 season, what were some of the bigger storylines that stuck with you and the guys there at the USL show?
Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I mean, Las Vegas has actual investment, and they're putting together an actual roster. Like, it seems like something so simple that should have been done a long time ago, but they didn't. That's the one thing that we're excited about. I think one other thing that we're kind of ready to see is just the East is a slog.
Mm-hmm.
I think other than one team, the Miami FC, there's 11 teams you can talk yourself into making the playoffs, and there's about 8 teams you can talk yourself into home playoffs. It's ridiculous. The West is just as strong. You look at your Sacramentos, you look at your San Antonios, even your Phoenixes to an extent, El Pasos. It's just as strong on the West, but the East from top to bottom just looks like it's going to be a bloodbath.
And you end up with something. I mean, I thought you were going to talk about Hartford as one of the teams that was not going to be a part of the playoff discussion, considering their history. But they've got Nick Sakevich now in the front office, and they seem to be at least making the right strides heading into the season. Obviously, since they haven't played a game, we can't sit there and talk about that. But Hartford Athletic, I mean, they're a team that's going to sit there and go, okay, we're changing things around. We know what happened last year. Got some front office folks in, and now we're making some other changes. I thought you were going to mention Hartford and not the Miami FC.
No, because this is the first year I think I've ever believed in the Hartford project.
Really? Okay.
Because last year they said, well, in 2021 or 2022, they said we have a really, really good attack and a really bad defense. And going in 2023, they said, what if we bought more attackers and didn't get any good defenders? That was just kind of their idea. And if you have watched Hartford matches, they were all like 5-5. They were fun unless you're a Hartford fan. And they all kind of fell apart. This year, they have a really good defense. They have good attackers. They have good midfielders. There's a lot of things to believe in. I think your question is, does the Hartford stink leave them?
Does the Hartford stink leave? Yeah, that's one of the big things. Maddie Cruz and the ones and twos. Question for Keeler Hodges.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting to kind of get into it. I'm excited to watch this season as well, because this is like really the first time that I'm actually going to be like really sitting down to like watch these matches. I've seen like a couple of them like in passing, but I'm really excited to really sit down and watch them. What are some teams that you're really looking forward to seeing them break out in this season? Is there anyone you have your mind on? Anyone that you think is really going to break out?
I mean, we kind of mentioned the Las Vegas. I mean, I think they're kind of everybody's sexy pick.
So then who would not be a sexy pick that you would still have a part of that discussion?
I think people are going to be shocked at how good North Carolina is. People are underrating the League One talent, but when you have someone who scored, I believe, 17 goals last year with Alexander, and then you're adding, bona fide goal scorers on top of that, adding in just real deal talent, people are going to underrate North Carolina because they don't think that League One is as good as it is. guess what, people? The gap between League One and Championship is almost non-existent. Get over yourself. They are going to be a real deal talent. I have them as the third best team in the East.
And what they have done is, and they have done it from both directions. They've wanted to build from their academy and bring in the younger players and keep the younger players and make sure that, you know, they're going to hang around for a while, but they're building from within at the same time, making those key pickups and trying to figure out, okay, who can fit and be a good mentor for our younger talent. And so you're seeing a team that basically won a championship, got promoted technically, and now they're in USL Championship, but they're one of those clubs that has that academy base that's helping them out with their talent pool.
Yeah, and some we talked about when we talked to Jake McGuire, who is the GK1 out in North Carolina. When we talked with him on the Glove of the Game, we talked about his time there at League One, North Carolina, and we talked about how do you coach younger players, because they had academy guys. Nick Holiday, ever heard of him? Like, he came through and he was an academy guy. How does he help him? Because in the end, they're academy players, but they're also there to try to take your job, right? And so how do you balance having an academy guy in your backroom staff who wants to take your job as a 16-year-old, but you also are in charge of making sure that he grows as a player? And so you have a really fun dynamic at North Carolina where a lot of the players are also coaches for the academy. The academy players are getting time to play with the first team and get actual first team training minutes. And it just becomes not only a learning environment, but a competitive environment where they get to compete against grown men. It's really cool.
And in the Twitch pitch, we actually have folks who are firing back and forth amongst each other. We got North Carolina FC fans and Charleston Battery fans going at each other in the Twitch pitch. And so it's fun to hear you talk about those two franchises while those two fan bases are going at each other in the Twitch pitch this morning. See what we have started. It's amazing what happens when you have cannons involved with goal scoring.
It's amazing what happens when you have Del Schaefer involved, because there's always cannons there.
Chaos.
Absolutely. Maddie, go for it.
Well, I have two questions for you as well. I'm getting the opportunity to catch up a little bit with Knoxville's head coach, Mark McKeever, later today. What is something that you would want to know about that squad going into this new season, especially for League One?
We did our USL League One preview last night. I want to be, what was the plan? I kind of hate to say it, but they might have had the worst offseason for League One teams. And there's a part of you that wonders, hey, the players that are coming back, do you expect them to be used to the league? Because they brought a lot of players who were championship players, and maybe they underrated the league a little bit and they got punched in the mouth a little bit. Maybe they're banking on some step ups, but I don't see any improvements for this One Knox team. And this is a One Knox team that didn't make the playoffs last year. I want to know what the plan was. If it was, we expect guys to take some steps forward, or maybe I'm just underrating the players they brought in.
Absolutely.
Second question, Maddie, go for it.
Second question. Listen, you're in Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to tell Jay.
Here we go.
I just promised this jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I've still heard nothing about it. All I want is the jersey. Jay Heaps, if you're listening, love you. You're great. You're phenomenal. You're a great person. Yeah. Love you so much. I'll send you my address.
Oh, boy. For the record, I have talked to Jay, and Jay is working on it. And so now both Keeler and Maddie are looking for the Lady Electras. And by the way, I give Birmingham full credit. That is a hell of a jersey. You did some fantastic work with that. And I also, since Maddie mentioned One Knox, I'll give One Knox a boatload of credit for the Sunsphere jersey. I like that.
It's so good.
I like that Sunsphere jersey. I really do. And that nod to the World Cup, the World's Fair of years past, where you go up the Sunsphere and you have like overpriced skinny portions during the World's Fair. I was there. I have the Ringer T-shirt buried someplace. I know it exists. Kefty says that Birmingham is in trouble. I don't know if that is meant because of the desires for the Lady Electra jersey by the folks here on the show, or in general with what the Legion may or may not be up to. What's your thoughts about your hometown club this year?
They've changed their tactical approach a little bit since you saw them, or maybe it was just because of the team that they were going against. But their latest friendly against Chattanooga FC, I walked away saying this team is weird in the best way possible.
Okay.
They have a front, they have a back three and a front four attack. So it's like a 3-3-4.
Okay.
And you have one holding mid and then two guys that are pressing forward. So you essentially have a 3-1-6 whenever you're in possession.
Okay.
And it looks bizarre. And it is a bizarre thing to watch. And do I think that they have the talent to compete at the top? If you look at names on paper, sure. Mm-hmm. Do I think they've made enough changes to really push to be a top 4 team? I don't know. But I also think they're going to win a lot of matches based on being weird. Because, I watched them and I was like, I've never seen anything like this before. And I think a lot of teams in the USL are going to be experiencing the same thing because it's 4 fast technical players up top where the whole goal is screw it, they're down there somewhere. And when you have 4 of those people, that's hard to keep up with, especially when they're super technical players. They're going to win games off being weird and having good talent. Are they going to be top 4? I don't know. I want to believe, but they're going to be interesting and fun to watch.
Dell wants to know if you're broadcasting live from jail, considering your backdrop. And Harry says that you're always creative. You always have creative backdrops, from the old school hotel background to a brick wall. And then Harry does qualify by saying you are in fact the best. But are you broadcasting live from jail this morning?
My contractual obligations at the school I work at makes me say no. I haven't had time to decorate behind me.
See that, we got to work on that. What do you think? You got a new club in the Eastern Conference this year. New club, period. I mean, we can differentiate from new club in the Western Conference because Memphis 901 is going from east to west. We had Stephen Glass on the show about a week ago. And you've got Rhode Island FC with our buddy Michael Parkhurst and Kano Smith, the head coach. They're building the facility. They're building the stadium, and it should be ready for next season. They're playing at Bryant this year. What are you anticipating from RIFC in year 1 of their existence in the Northeast?
Rhode Island FC is a bizarre thought experiment.
How bizarre a thought experiment is it?
Their starting 11 is great, but I believe in their depth 0.
Okay.
So if you bank on their starting 11 being healthy all year long, maybe I think they could be a top 2 team in the East. If an injury happens at a key position, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things that they would see. I need to see how they last for 34, because if the season was 10 matches long, you might be able to pencil them into being the top team in the East, but it's 34. And I need to know how the depth can last, because the drop off from 11 to 12, I think, is pretty massive.
Okay. So, Maddie, what else is on your mind when it comes to USL Championship and League One for @Keeler Hodges on the Twitters?
Ooh, I mean, I'm excited for the season to start. It's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, what are your thoughts on the new deal, especially with the new TV broadcasting, it being broadcasted in more places now? I mean, it's great for the league on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about it. I think the thing that scares fans a little bit is having to have multiple subscription services, but also a lot of the stuff on CBS is going to be free. So there's that. You get your national broadcast. It's going to be on CBS. It's going to be the final. the both finals for League One and the championship. And I think someone did some looking into it. I think that week is either rivalry week or championship week.
Ooh.
So there is a world where you have like Ohio State, Michigan going straight into the USL championship finals.
Wow. Okay.
That's crazy.
That's an interesting programming grid.
Yes.
Dell, with a question for you. Do you think that the battery can be as good with the loss of Muse, Fidel Barajas, and Derek Dodson with the additions of Graham Smith, Aaron Malloy, Jackson Conway, Jake LaCava, etc.? No top striker or a big-name keeper, but a solid midfield.
Losing Fidel Barajas is massive, obviously. Losing Augie Williams is massive, obviously. I'm going to go ahead and apologize to Trey and his father, but he was just okay last year.
Okay.
He was just okay. And I think if you get average goalkeeping output out of what you have there, you just made a lateral move. Like, I wasn't impressed by Trey Muse. That said, Aaron Malloy is ridiculous. If you haven't watched Aaron Malloy, he might be the best midfielder in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I am a big Conway fan. LaCava, the Jake LaCava fan club starts with me. I love that guy. I think that he is a real deal talent. I think that he's super impressive. I think that Charleston with Ben Pierman and the continuity that they have, I think a big part of people are missing out is Mark Segbers gets a full year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he came over from Miami, was just okay.
Came over from the Miami.
I'm always the one that keeps people in line with it too. How dare I?
Gotcha.
But I think that you're going to see Charleston, I think, take a step forward. Losing Fidel Barajas is a lot, but also last year during the playoffs and other times, we didn't see Barajas that much anyway, and they were fine.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be okay.
Some of the younger talent that's going to be out there this year, and this is for those that might play USL Championship Fantasy, for those that do. I mean, there are some really talented young players that are going to be out there. For Vegas, you mentioned Vegas, and they're getting Edison Ascona on loan from Messi and Friends. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have Ascona out there. I'm wondering, frankly, if the folks at Vegas Lights have learned how to do a bat flip from Joey Bats myself, and I'm looking forward to that with their new owner out there at Cashman. Someone that you know from your coverage there in Birmingham with Matty Corcoran. You've got Brendan Craig in El Paso. You've got Bryce Jameson at OCSC. Damian Loss, who was a top keeper in MLS Next Pro last season for Los Verdos. Austin FC 2. He's going to be at Lou City for Danny Cruz. Christian Nava, New Mexico United. Naita Pickering, who we've been very high on for a long time, and his growth at Memphis 901. Marcos Rios at Colorado Springs. There's a lot of young talent that's going to be out there on display. Who else in your spot, Shadow, or some of the either the new faces to USL Championship and or League One, or the young faces in either of those leagues that we need to keep an eye on and sit there and go, oh, this is appointment television?
Okay, there's a couple of places I want to go with this. First off, with Knight, I've been told that he only wants to go by Knight.
Okay.
No Pickering.
Wow. Wait. Okay, so he's going the full Madonna, Tiger, Jack.
Yes.
Deal. Okay, got it.
But when you have a name like Knight, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I absolutely.
If you haven't had a chance to watch him, he is incredible. Mm-hmm. I think he's one you have to watch. Bryce Jameson might be one of the most interesting ones that you're going to see. You're losing Milan Olowski, who was their attack. I mean, I kind of joke about Legion being 4 guys of screw it, they're down there somewhere. Orange County was Milan down there somewhere.
There you go.
And guess what? He did it. Bryce Jameson's a guy who, when he played in the U17 World Cup, he did well. When he played in the USL Academy tournament, the finals tournament, he scored I think it was a 20-minute hat trick at 17 years old. It was gross. And I think he's a guy that can make a step forward. There are two guys I think in League One that you have to circle. And if you're a Georgia person, I think you already kind of know where I'm going. Jackson Corey is incredible. If Tormenta goes, he goes.
Yep.
It's one of those things that if South Georgia Tormenta are going to be competitive this year, it's going to be on the back of Jackson Corey. And the other one is in Charlotte. And I think you're looking at Omar Sis, who got 35 games last year as a 21-year-old. And he is your true box-to-box midfielder. He can do anything you want. Those are the guys that I would circle personally.
Yeah, we caught up with Mike Jeffries earlier this week to get the Charlotte Independence lay of the land. Michael Valverde is looking for a little more in-depth discussion on North Carolina FC. Just talk about their new additions. Was at the final last year. They are stout. What do you think about NCFC in addition to the ways that they're building and bringing in folks? What do you think about North Carolina FC?
I love North Carolina FC. I do. The big ones that we're looking at, you're looking at Paco Craig, who has the conversation of being the best center back in the league.
Yep.
You're looking at Lamar Batista, who came out strong last year, looks great. Another guy that was just underrated. You're looking at a Rodrigo da Costa, who is being added on top of Rafael Menzigan. You're looking at Colin Martin, who is your midfielder's favorite midfielder. You get Garrett McLaughlin, who is ridiculously good. Oh my gosh, Alex Anderson.
Alex Anderson,
yeah, just incredible. Evan Conway over there. You can put together a starting 11 and a bench that competes with anybody. And that's the difference to me between Rhode Island and North Carolina, which you can say they are the two new teams. North Carolina, not that new.
Yeah.
But when you look at the bench that North Carolina has, if someone's hurt and you have to pluck someone from the bench, they're going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I am really excited about what they have. I think bringing back Jake McGuire is going to be huge. Bringing back a Railhawks legend and Akira Fitzgerald is pretty big if you are looking for someone to mentor the young guys.
Yep.
I love what North Carolina did. I think Colin Martin's going to be a big deal. Rodrigo da Costa adding on top of Anderson and Menzigan is going to be just ridiculously good. And I think people are going to be very shocked when they experience it for the first time.
Wrapping up our time with Keeler Hodges and at Keeler Hodges on the 280 character app and at the USL show with him and the band of renowned. One last question about USL League One. I have always posited in all of my interviews that USL League One is one of the toughest, if not the toughest league in this hemisphere to navigate on a yearly basis.
Yeah.
Because it is, it's a rock fight. It's a rock fight in a phone booth. And to try and get into the top six, to get into the postseason, you literally can go to the last week of the year and you could still have 9 or 10 teams chasing after all 6 spots. You've got a new team in Spokane, and now that gives you an even 12, 6, and I know they're trying to build the Western footprint, but are you anticipating the same kind of, oh my God, craziness in USL League One that we have seen ever since the league came online?
Yes. Yeah. Spokane's an interesting one to me because they've added a lot of players that never really got a chance in the championship. And then they bring over players in League One who are great. I mean, if you're looking at Luis Hill, probably the best central attacking midfielder in the league last year. And it was chock full of great central attacking midfielders last year. I think that Spokane's a boomer bust. When you look at the championship players that brought in that didn't really get their opportunity, they could be great. They could be getting their time to shine. It's not like they brought in kind of like what Knox did last year of all stars from yesteryear. They brought in the unproven talents from last year. And I think that could go well, but also I think Spokane might find out why they were unused. So that's always a scary situation to be in, especially since the gap between the championship and League One is not that big.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're also going to see a team like Lexington, who a lot of people have as their top team.
They blew the salary cap, man. They're just like, back up the truck and we'll pay Cameron Lancaster whatever he wants.
I mean, John and I talked about it last night. John Morrissey at USL Tactics.
There you go.
We don't think they're the top. We think they're like top 3.
Okay.
But we're both in unanimous agreement that Ford Madison's the best team in League One.
Really?
Their defense is ridiculous. The players they brought back in are great. Cheney is going to get more double-digit goals. They're great from top to bottom. And then you have your Union Omahas. You have guys like that. You have Northern Colorado, who has retooled after losing Armand and Rogers, 2 of the best teams or players in the league last year. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be ridiculous. To kind of speak to how crazy it was, if you weren't following 2 years ago when South Georgia Tormenta won it, on the final day of the season, they could have either finished second or missed the playoffs altogether.
Correct.
That was a possibility. They could have missed the playoffs or finished second, and that was on the last day of the season. I think it's going to be exactly the same.
And we're looking forward to it. So this officially kicks off all of your visits for you and the friends at the USL show. So if I'm looking at my calendar, that means the last Thursday of the month is in 3 weeks. So on the 28th, sir, you and your merry band are invited back, and we'll take a look at the first couple of weeks of the season. Go ahead and hit all the plugs and what folks need to listen to and watch.
At the USL show on Twitter or Bird X, whatever it is. You can get on there on YouTube and also all your podcasting streaming services. We have a kit season show, which is all about rating the kits and stuff. We've done interviews with all sorts of manufacturers, the Yaza, Hummel, Capelli's coming on soon. We're getting all of the manufacturers to talk about kit design, how that works. That one's fun. For the glove of the game, this is the one that is the one that's close to my heart. It takes a professional goalkeeper, and we walk them through one of their best matches and have them break down every single touch they had on the game. So we talked to Jake McGuire, and we walked him through his match against Birmingham Legion last year, where he had, I think it was 9 saves, including a penalty save. I mean, and we talked, and he talked through every little detail of why did he play this pass? Why did he boot it out as opposed to playing it short? How did he see a certain ball? We did the same thing with Amal Knight from Lexington. And now with the season starting, we're going to be taking some of the best performers from the week and going forward. And then just the standard show, the USL show, the flagship. It's good stuff. John Morrissey, Alan Underwood, Ryan Allen, Phil Bakke. I think did I say John Morrissey? Maybe I did.
Yeah, you did.
Those guys, they make me look smart, or they make me look dumb. One of the ways. I don't know which one that goes, but I mean, it's some of the best crew around to talk about the USL. And if you want to follow more about it, specifically follow those guys, but follow the USL show as well.
What he said. Keeler, please continue to hydrate. Dell is asking that you get a haircut.
No, because last time I did, he bullied me. No.
Okay.
Not happening.
So there will not be a haircut by the time that Keeler comes back in 3 weeks. Keeler, my friend, thanks for taking the time and stepping into a room in your rounds of education and taking time to hang out with us. We'll catch up with you in a couple of weeks, my friend, and we'll go through everything in the championship in League One.
See you.
All right. Keeler Hodges. And Maddie, you're kind of busy too because you got like interning stuff to take care of, right?
I do. I have interning stuff, which is always fun.
Yeah. So Maddie is going to get prepared for her meeting. And so tonight, let's go ahead and tease it. 5:30 and 7:30. It is a Great DeKalb County matchup. It is Clarkston and Druid Hills, and it's over at soccerdownhere.mixler.com. 2 great teams in Quad A, both top 10s, and it's going to be back-to-back nights of us doing stuff tonight in DeKalb County, tomorrow night in Houston for Collins Hill and Mill Creek.
Absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, if you want to go check out Soccer's in Session, it was the girls episode yesterday. It came out yesterday. The boys is going to be coming out later today. But I believe because Druid Hills, this is their first region game. Clarkson has already had one, and they won that match. And they're both coming into this. It's like a brand new thing. So it's pretty cool getting to cover another first region game. It's pretty awesome. It's going to be a fun one.
Yep. Our live site, soccerdownhere.mixler.com. Clarkston, Druid Hills doubleheader tonight from North DeKalb Stadium starting at 5:30 over on the live side. Maddie, we will see you this afternoon and this evening over at North DeKalb Stadium.
Absolutely. Make sure you all check out Soccer is in Session, the boys episodes coming out later today. I'll be talking to Collins Hill and Mill Creek's head coach ahead of the boys match on Friday.
There you go. So, Maddie, as always, thanks a lot. We'll catch up with you later. And now, all right, I'm going to do the promos now. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. I know I'm doing it like an hour and a half in. There's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch, on YouTube's, and on the 280-character app. Don't forget, you get to click on that QR code. Don't forget the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it into the youth game, youth initiatives that they have earmarked from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and at kickoffcoffeeco.com. So that's your promo. When it comes to, and we talked about what's going on with players and such. We talked about Matias Rojas with our from our friend Michelle Kaufman with Messi and friends. It looks like Robert Taylor also wants a new deal down in Miami. So we'll see if him apparently saying that publicly or to people, how that endears him to the surroundings there with Messi and friends. And so you got that. You've got a couple of other things this morning, and they are, and like I said, I'm blowing through the headlines because this is a jam-packed show, and we're trying to get everything squared away. Leicester could be at risk of profit and sustainability, and they're in the championship, and they're trying to get promoted, so they've spent a boatload of money. From our friends at The Athletic, and when it's once again, what we always say about more than one reporter, it's a big deal. Rob Tanner, Matt Slater. Leicester remains at risk of a PSR breach despite an independent panel ruling the club do not have to submit a business plan to the EFL. In November, Leicester were predicted to be on course to exceed the permitted losses of £83 million over a 3-year reporting period by the Financial Reporting Unit. Asked to submit a business plan to demonstrate how they would comply with spending limits. Premier League clubs, on the flip side, remember, it's 35 times 3. It's 105 over a 3-year period. Maximum of £13 million is permitted in the championship. Leicester recorded losses of £92.5 million for the financial year ending May 31, 2022, on the back of a £31 million loss for the previous year, £67 million loss for the year ending May of 2020. But as PSR work in a 3-year cycle, that one's out. So the club accounts for the 22-23 season set to be released. Remember, we talked about Everton, and they're being investigated. Nottingham Forest is still being investigated. So the EFL states the decision could result in amending future financial rules to ensure all clubs are treated equally. So there's that involving Leicester. Also on the board this morning, as we blow through two Brighton fans from our friends at Talk Sport, two Brighton fans were stabbed in Rome ahead of a Europa League clash. So, I guess that qualifies as stupidity down here. Abby, good morning. Thanks for hanging out with us as you always do. Dell, it's always good when we can catch up with Keeler and, get the USL Championship, USL League One perspective on things. And I'm going to keep doing opening kickoff stuff and just blow through headlines until Niko gets here. So, all around, let's see. Chelsea reveal a £90 million loss from our friends at The Telegraph. Doubts grow over the club's ability to meet PSR. Once again, we mentioned that Newcastle had a big first-year number, or had a big number the last time that they had announced their figures. Chelsea, £90 million loss before tax in the 12-month period up to June of 2020, the end of June 2023. The latest loss on the back of the previous year's 121.4 was revealed in the accounts of Blueco 22, the company through which Bowley Clearlake bought Chelsea from Roman Abramovich. They also own Strasbourg, and they announced a £653 million loss after taxes for the period from March 2 of 22 through June 30 of 23. Yeah, Adele, we did talk about Steve Cherundolo. It is a $10,000 fine for, how was it phrased by Major League Soccer? Public, not public discourse, but It was, where is it? It was a fine. So is it technically a disco? The $10,000 fine. I can't find it. $10,000 fine by Cherundolo. And so because he said what he said, basically, and there's an official wording for it. Yeah, $10,000 fine for Steve Cherundolo. And we were wondering how those fines get paid. We think that there's a kitty. They got like a bucket or a safety deposit box in the office, and they just sit there and wire the money to the league office. So Chelsea remain insistent the club can operate within Premier League's PSR and UEFA's FFP, but once again, it's got to be a 3-year, a £105 million loss. Chelsea's got some work to do. Leicester might have to have a massive sell-off if they get promoted into the Premier League, and then they'd have to rework it. And so Leicester might be one of those pogo teams from like 21 to 27 and just go up, come down, go up and come down. So it will be intriguing to see what happens with our friends at Leicester. And I know that Jason Nix, who is our faithful Leicester fan, probably is going to hear that information, and he is going to go screaming into the void for what is being divulged. Let's see. Gary O'Neill looks like he might be getting a new contract at Wolves, considering that right now they are 8th. And there you go. That'll be opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code. For those of you who are watching on Twitch, don't forget, you use the code soccer down here 15 at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth initiatives from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. It's the last half hour of the show on Thursday. That means one thing. It means that we check and see how many cups of coffee our buddy Niko Moreno has had, and it's time to bring him in to discuss everything from the Pacific perspective. Niko, my friend, I salute you. Welcome in on a Thursday to wrap up the show.
My man, what's going on, John? SDH family, I got my second cup of coffee, little Juan Valdez cup in my hand. Having some really good coffee. It's been an exhausting week, really, man. There's been a lot going on around MLS. Be some real highs for some teams, some real lows for others. So, lots to talk about. But, it talks to what's going on around the area, man. I mean, the soccer realm, it's really hitting off.
Jarrett mentioned yesterday that for some reason Seattle just isn't allowed to have nice things. You sign De La Vega, and he comes out of the blocks, and everybody is seeing the promise that's attached, and now he's out for the next 6 to 8 because of a hammy. What's the vibe been like, seeing someone come on like a flash, knowing what he could bring to the table, and then have that just completely squashed?
So I guess we're starting with the lows, huh?
Yeah, man. That's the best. Big news, brother.
Yes, it's tough. It's bad news all around for this Sounders team. The fan base had one thing to hold on to, one silver lining that they saw in 2 games where the team was underwhelming for one reason or another. I understand that there's injuries. I understand that there is a chemistry and a learning curve that's happening that maybe the coaching staff did not see coming. But now you add on the fact that this young DP, first in franchise history, that was as good as he was in small moments, in short moments, and we'll talk a little bit about that because they played him at 2 different positions. But in both of those, there was just flashes of what he could do passing-wise, dribbling-wise, just an exciting player, creativity. Every time he got on the ball, it was something exciting was happening. And now he's gone 6 to 8 weeks. The team has told us that they've looked into the hamstring injuries. They've looked at the fact that they've had this injuries over and over again. And at the time, it doesn't seem like there's anything wrong or nothing's alarming. Nothing's really sticking out. But Pedro, he's had some issues with hamstrings, right? And this is the right hamstring, the same one that made him have to be removed from the Argentinian U23 camp when Javier Mascherano calls him, and he suffers that injury, tweaks it, is pulled out of that camp, and then he goes to Spain where he tweaks his other hamstring, and now we're back to the right. So it is a little bit concerning. What I'm hearing from the club is that they're being very cautious, so they're not going to rush him back. That's why the 6 to 8 week timetable there, but they're just not going to rush him.
So then when it comes to reorganizing all the carts in the grocery store so you can continue to shop the way that you want to shop on a match day, how has Brian Schmetzer and the staff reorganized everything, knowing that you're not going to have De La Vega? What does that mean? Who steps in? Who moves over? What does it look like going forward in the interim while De La Vega gets fixed?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's going to be something that they haven't practiced. And that's what I kind of led today's segment with, is the fact that the Seattle Sounders are in a little bit of a learning curve. And you can see the miscommunications, the lack of chemistry, lack of cohesiveness when it comes to the attacking end. Even pressuring hasn't been effective. And that's because throughout the whole preseason, everything they did in Spain, they were working off of a 4-2-3-1. They had certain players that were working together consistently. Raul Ruidiaz wasn't one of them. Raul Ruidiaz had been relegated to playing with all the young guys. And now who's going to come and have to save the day? Raul Ruidiaz, because that is the one guy that has looked really sharp. He's been good on the ball, good in link-up play. We talked to Jordan Morris yesterday. He kind of surprised me by calling him, he's been playing like a little bit of a 10. And, you know, I wouldn't go that far into saying he's playing like a 10, but he's definitely that second striker that is linking up play, that's pulling up defenders from him. And that's how you're going to have to reshuffle this board, right? You're going to have to go into a 4-4-2. You're going to have to forget about playing with a cam at this point, because Albert Rusnak's still not ready. He won't be ready for Philadelphia. Maybe against Colorado at home, perhaps he'll be back, and then maybe once again you reshuffle. But the only way that this team is going to play at this moment in time is on a 4-4-2, where Jordan Morris is going to be trying to do Jordan Morris things and trying to get behind the defenders and trying to get in good space. He hasn't been sharp in front of goal, and that's unfortunate because he's a player that needs the one goal to fall in order to get some confidence, in order to really get going. So that's what's going to happen. It's going to be a 4-4-2 flat. Christian on the right side, Leo on the left side, Jordan Morris and Raul up top. And in the middle, because Joe Paulo's still not ready and he wasn't at practice yesterday, my guess is that they're going to go with the young squad again in Josh Atencio and Obed Vargas. So I really do think that this team is going to have to put their money where their mouth is in terms of the depth of this team coming into this season. We talked about this team being really deep, and now the young guys are going to have to really show how deep this team is. And Brian Schmetzer is going to have to really start giving these guys confidence and putting them in situations where they have to pull through for the team. Dylan Tevez was really good all preseason. I want to see Danny Leyva. Danny Leyva has to be the best passer out of the young guys in that midfield. So I want to see him get going. So Brian Schmetzer is really going to have to use these guys in order to get some points as we wait for De La Vega to get back.
And you're going to have to do it in the U12 pitch that is Yankee Stadium, going up against a team in NYCFC that ain't all that. I mean, right now, believe it or not, we actually started talking about hot seats this week with the first couple of match weeks done. Nick Cushing is at the top of the list, or if he's not, he's really close, depending on who you talk to, for coaches who might be needing to update their resumes and their CVs, because NYC has not impressed, and I'm trying to be kind about it because we're only 2 match weeks in. This could be a get-right game for an injured Seattle team trying to figure things out, going up against an NYC team that isn't really doing a whole lot right now, but you're having to do it in that kickabout futsal pitch at Yankee Stadium. So there's a lot of conflicting things here, but it could be a get-right game for Seattle.
Yeah, but it's not in your city, it's Philly. they're playing Philly. They're going to play Philadelphia. And that Philadelphia is coming in from
I'm thinking of Portland, man. I'm out to lunch. That's my bad.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Okay, then disregard what I just said. Now you're going to Philly, and you're having to do it against Jim Curtin and that group that wants to kick you. And they want to sit there, and it's like, all right, we're going to kick, we're going to fall, and you can do that because the officials are not having the new sets of rules. So you're going to Philly. You get to do it in Philly at Subaru Park in that environment, going up against folks that they want to bump you, they want to push you, they want to prod you, they want to force you into mistakes, they want to force you into goading into cards. So screw the idea of that get right game. I'm sorry about that. You've got Jim Curtin you're going up against this weekend. It gets worse.
Yeah, it's a tough game. I think that we don't match up well at this particular time. By we, I mean the Sounders. I don't like using that, but the Sounders are. I don't feel like they match up well because of that. That's a very experienced midfield. That's a team that really gets forward. I want to see. This Seattle team hasn't really been challenged other than against LAFC. And now you have a whole different pairing of center backs in Javier Arriaga and Jackson Reagan. So you saw Ure against Pachuca getting good positions, didn't quite put it away. Gastav should have probably had that game for Philadelphia. So they did create some really good moments there offensively. So I think Seattle's going to struggle. I don't know if they match up well. We'll see how the chemistry between Jordan Morris and Raul Ruiz goes into this game, because that's a good defensive team as well. You said it. They're physical. They're not afraid to go to those dark magic moments and giving you some of that, shuffle and elbow and, here and there. So, it's going to be a tough game for Seattle. I don't think that they'll come out with a win in this one. They would be fortunate to get a draw. And that would be good as it is. That could maybe build some momentum. But I really do think that they're going to not get any points in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and the Union got Andre Blake back. No word on if Blake's going to do the back-to-back or if it's going to be Semley getting the reps this weekend going up against Philly. Now,
you hope they rotate, right? You hope they will rotate, but people close to Philadelphia and fans, they laugh at me when I said rotation and Curtin. So, they know that team better than I do. But I would think that because they just played Pachuca yesterday or the other day on Tuesday, I would think that there may be going to be some rotation. I mean, a lot of those guys played 90 and they played some rough shifts. McGlennon, Brujo, Ura, Gosdak, all those guys play 90, and that's a tough shift. Mbaizo, Harriel, all those guys play 90 minutes. So we'll see if there's some rotation, and maybe that kind of puts things a little bit in a better way for Seattle to at least do a little bit of something. I will say, though, that I do like what I'm seeing from Raul Ruiz. And maybe he's that guy that is going to provide you something that you haven't had so far. He's my, it here. It's on the record. You could look it up here at SDH. He's my comeback player of the year candidate. And I think that if he gets some goals, he'll be on his way.
Yep. And so we'll keep an eye on rotation, which is a legit point from Tuesday and the goalless draw with Pachuca. Also out west, and you look at what has been going on for the first couple of match weeks. I know that we were staring at Portland, and then you're thinking, okay, they got a 2-0 lead against a DC United team that doesn't have Christian Benteke, and you're thinking, okay, 2 matches, 6 points, Portland's on a roll. And then the defense that we have seen in Portland reared its ugly head, and you end up with a 2-2 draw there. You've got LAG, who they're at 4 points after Cali Classico. Oh, let's go here. What did you, sir, think about the snow game with LAFC and Real Salt Lake?
Look, I'm of the thought process that if there are procedures and there's policies and there is a way to play around weather, because that's just playing in the United States athletics. You have to know that at times you're going to have to play with the elements.
Yeah.
And those rules are established and both coaches know what those are, then you can't really complain about it. And I understand Steve Cherundolo's frustration with the whole thing. But if you really do not want to put your team in that position, then don't play it. Or because they talked to both coaches because of how things were playing out there once they came back from that weather delay. So if you were really that concerned, then maybe you just figure out that you're going to take the fine or whatever. You really go against it. But once you say, yeah, let's do this, and you lose, then you kind of lose that privilege of saying, hey, this was unfair. Both teams had to play the way they did. I know visibility was an issue, but you had the right ball for it. You saw them wipe down all the lines around the pitch. So, they did what they could, and the other team played great. RSL took advantage of what it was, and they moved the ball well around. I thought Andres Gomez, I think this is his year. I think it's his year with RSL. He looked fantastic. Chicho, doing the Snow Angels at LA, Los Angeles FC was great. I mean, all of that I'm in for. LAFC will have to just turn the page, move along. No big deal. Ugo probably never play in the snow again.
Oh, no.
But I thought it was fine. I thought that everybody followed procedure, protocol. RSL was the better team in those 90 minutes, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is, the other team played in the same conditions you played in, and they happened to score 3 times. And the $10,000 fine that Cherundolo got, technically it was called for public criticism, which you can do, but then you got to find the safety deposit box with the stacks of cash in the team office and go, yes, we'll wire it to you, and you sit there and you cut a check or whatever. All right, I've delayed last week's big topic enough, and it's Messi and friends, obviously.
Yeah.
And like I said, we've talked about how I thought they were going to come out and how they were going to approach this season, try to bank as many points as possible off the top, and then try to hang on to whatever position they were in. I still think they're a top 4 team. I don't think they're going to win the East. I think they might win one of the cup competitions. They might win leagues. They might win, they might win that. I don't know if because of where they might be when it comes to the playoffs, all of the schedule compression, all these kinds of things. I think they win a trophy. It may not be the trophy this season. But when it comes to Messi and friends, they put up a nickel on Orlando, and they didn't think twice about the purple team getting hammered. I mean, it was ugly. It was ugly early, and I know that everyone and their mom is sitting there and looking at that match, and they're squealing. It's like literally, it's like going to the Taylor Swift concert. Look at this. It literally that's what you're getting in that kind of a situation. They had no conscience. Didn't need to think twice about it, pounded the purple team, and that, I think, is what folks were looking for when you got the Gulfstream Galacticos together and created what you've got down there in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, I think we all just got to pump the brakes. I mean, the narrative here, it's pretty ironic and a little bit, I'm not sure what to call it, maybe I don't know. It moves around in a way that's very interesting, right? Because you got the guys that are cheering for this team to just be unbelievable, to take the shield, to do it all. And then you have the guys that are saying, hey, you know what? This team has got a lot to prove. These guys are older. And you're not saying anything, and that's me because I'm on this side. Yeah. You're not saying anything that's out of the ordinary. I'm just giving you facts. The age, the problems with health, all of these things. Yes, Luis Suarez had a fantastic game, had the brace, had the assist, had it all. But sometimes a game falls away and falls away from a team, and everything falls apart, and he creates this perfect storm for you to get 5 goals scored on you. But that's not what we are necessarily measuring this team on. It's not one game where Luis Suarez had a great game and you score 5 goals. It's about longevity. It's about how far can you get? What you just said. Can they win a trophy? Can they get all these achievements that everybody's hoping to get? And that's the real question. So, yes, it was a great game. I thought Orlando City had a plan. And Messi said it after the game. I mean, we were expecting a tough game, physical game, but that early goal just changed everything. And I think after that early goal, everything that you had worked on to try to stop Messi, you started doubting. Very uncharacteristically, this team gave Miami easy goals. Easy goals. I mean, you're passing the ball right to Luis Suarez on a break, right to Lionel Messi. That header that Lionel Messi has, how does the best player in the planet walk into your 18 and there's nobody around him? This is not a big guy. And he headed that ball with no one around him. How does that happen? Gajese, he overcorrects in his movement as well. So there were so many things that went wrong for Orlando that I don't want to call it a blip or just a fluke, but it was a bad game for Orlando. And so we shouldn't push beyond that. But I think that whenever the guys that want this team to do so well say, I cannot believe how many people were doubting Suarez because of some preseason games just overreacting. Oh, but now you're overreacting off of 2 games? Is that what we're doing? Because, I mean, where is the reasoning on that? You're saying people overreacted on preseason, but now you're overreacting on one bad game from Orlando that Inter Miami was able to capitalize on. So I just think that everybody needs to pump their brakes. We'll see how this team does. I think that they're a deep team. I think they have some good quality players, but we'll see how it all plays out. We'll see how it plays out.
All right, Niko, at El Rolo NW, at Sports Pulso, at the Soccer Bar, and it's time for Cliffhanger. It is that time of the week where we roll through the schedule, and I can give juice boxes. I give the juice boxes. Niko will either let me continue talking and go to the next match, or he will say stop, and we will talk about the match in particular, and we'll rock and roll through the schedule for the week. Now, 2 matches, 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. The one that I was trying to credit as a get-right game for Seattle, which is, in fact, a match for Portland to play in the bandbox at Yankee Stadium to take on NYCFC. NYCFC is favored at a -114 with everything that they've gone through already this year. I like the draw at a +260. Portland to win at Yankee Stadium is a +305.
I like that 305. I like that 305. I really do know exactly where you were getting at with New York City FC.
Yeah.
They have been bleak. They have been anemic. They have been irresponsible with play. I mean, the fact that Sands, your experienced center back, someone that should probably be a guy that is a role model for other players within your organization, takes a cheap shot, gets sent off. You were already getting dominated by St. Louis in many parts of the field, and you go and do that. It just tells me that there is a problem with leadership. There's a problem with that coaching not being able to really affect what players are doing on the field. Like I said, they've been easy to score on. They have not been able to score themselves. Santi Rodriguez at times looks way too by himself. The fact that Pompeo was able to get through 3-4 players into your 18 and put it away on the right post of the goalkeeper, that simple, that easy. Nobody grabbed them. Nobody hit them. Nobody, they did nothing. They just watched him like cones just go around and score this goal. So I think that Timbers, with how good they've been, the quality that they have, the momentum that they're carrying, I think they'll go in and get a win at New York City FC.
All right, that's a +305. Toronto's hosting Charlotte at home. They're favored at a +116. Night side, Atlanta United, I can't let you go, obviously, any further. Atlanta United, home opener, -135, going up against New England, who was pretty comfortable in a half-rotated side, taking care of business against our friends from Costa Rica, Alajuelense in the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza. The draw and the revs on the road are within the margin of error in and around +315. What do you think?
I don't even put any juice boxes on this one, but I like Atlanta winning. I will go for it. I'm going to just dive right in. I think that New England, they will have some handicapping situations when it comes to rehab and the game that they just played. Yeah. Chancalay looked fantastic against Aloha. There's no doubt about that. He's a great player. He's going to be a guy that he's going to be an X factor for the New England Revolution. But defensively, I thought that even old Joel Campbell was getting into some positions to score some goals. You've heard me talk about New England and why I think that there's a lot of holes there with Caleb's team. So I am going to go ahead and take Atlanta in a get-right game, a big, I don't want to call it a blowout, but I think they'll score a couple of goals, and they'll take this one.
I'll put up a couple of numbers. I like how you think. Crew hosting the Fire, they're a big favorite at a -175. Red Bulls, favored at a -154, hosting FC Dallas. Purple Team, favored at a -111 against the Loons, Minnesota United, who are still waiting for Eric Ramsey to get to this side of the Atlantic at a +284 in the draw, +272 for Minnesota United to win outright. Philadelphia, you mentioned your match. Philadelphia on the plus side, favored at a +114 in the composite. Seattle on the draw, both at a +239. Austin in all caps, St. Louis City. Austin favored at home at Q2. Boy, do they need one.
I'll take it.
Okay. Austin.
I'll take St. Louis. Austin, I mean, you saw them play here at Lumen Field. There was nothing special about them. Mm-hmm. I think that there should be a warrant out for Rigoni's arrest because he has been stealing money from Austin for far too long. Even when Jossie came in, I didn't think they were any more dangerous. Yeah. I think that they open up a little too much. Those passing lanes get wider and wider as the game goes along. When they go into a deep block, that's probably when they're at their best. That's what they did against Seattle. I would just block shot, just get a lot of numbers behind the ball. But I think that St. Louis, with their pressure, with their athleticism, with how well they've been playing, man, and Pompeo, man, he's a guy that's on the come up, man. He is really looking good for that team. Danaran is on a tear. Klaus is going to be what Klaus does, hopefully doing some of the things he did last season. I just think that St. Louis is going to beat down on Austin, and I'll take that for sure. I'll put some juice boxes on that.
At a +206. RSL hosting Colorado. They're favored at a -143. You know, don't know which Colorado you're going to be getting so far these days. I think RSL takes care of business. LAFC at home late, hosting Sporting at a +1 at a -159. LAFC at home at BMO, a -159 as Sporting Kansas City comes to town, north of +410 for Sporting Kansas City. By the way, LAFC, they're up to 21 players on their active roster. They've actually added folks. So they don't have 17 or 18. They're up to 21. Let's see how many of them have thawed out after what happened last week. Late game Saturday night, San Jose on the plus side favored against Vancouver at a +117. Now the teams that played in CONCACAF, they got pushed to Sunday. Cincinnati in the afternoon at a -112 with DeAndre Yedlin now at the back. Right back, one of the big things they needed to address. They addressed it with DeAndre Yedlin now. -112 hosting DC United. DC United a +271 to win that one. Nashville.
Yeah, I don't ever put any juice boxes on that one either, but Cincinnati, man, they are just plugging away, getting the right personnel. I thought Chicago allowed them into a game that they probably could have won. Chicago could have, but they didn't because they're Chicago. And I don't know how a ball bounces, where it bounces and it lands in your former Atlanta United center back's feet, and he just goes right in. So those are the things that I just drive me crazy. But Cincinnati, DC United, I think that's going to be a pretty good game. Similarly, I thought that DC United, even without Benteke, did pretty good against Portland. I thought Christian Dahomey was dangerous. So I like what I'm seeing from DC. I think it's going to be a good one. I like it for a draw, to be quite frank. So, yeah.
That draw option is a +282 in the composite. 2 more matches to go. Nashville hosting LAG at Geodis after playing Messi and friends tonight in CONCACAF. Nashville favored at a +112. The draw is a +267. LAG is a +219. I like the draw because I think Nashville's going to try to choke the life out of this one. I don't think it's going to be the most exciting game on the board, but I'll take a draw. Scoreless, maybe 1-1. Maybe Paints will get something. Maybe you get something from somebody other than Hani Mukhtar. for Nashville SC. They signed Hani Mukhtar to a longer-term deal. Nashville now controls the asset if Hani is being courted overseas again. Last match on the board, 5 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. Messi and Friends against CF Montreal. Big favorite at home at a -182. And we mentioned the DeAndre Yedlin deal. Federico Redondo looks like he's now under the fold. They might be chasing after Franco Escobar, which is what we're hearing is the name on the board from the Houston Dynamo. They might be getting Matias Rojas because he is no longer under contract at Corinthians. You got, this is one of the biggest massages of the salary structure that I've seen where they're being at least transparent about it, not given 5 DPs when you're only allowed 3. But I mean, legitimately, you're getting rid of salary, you're dumping salary, and you're praying that the young guys that you either have, Allen, Avilas, Kromoski when he's healthy, are going to be doing the running in addition to Redondo. And now you've got Julian Gressel as your right back until you rejigger what you're looking at. If you're Tata Martino, I'm still thinking juice boxes under normal circumstances, you take the over. I'm thinking this one, you probably take the over too. I think that Messi and Friends try to put up an early number against Laurent Courtois, but it's an interesting contrast of styles to wrap up the week.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And I like everything that you said. I think that Tata Martino has a lot of options. I do think that Matias Rojas is going to be that guy that ends up down there. They do need a full-time right back, and they like Gressel a little bit higher. I think Federico's going to be – I think he's a baller. I think if he's not top 3 prospect in Argentina, then I don't know what to tell you.
Better be for $8 million and 15% of the pass. He better be, man.
Absolutely. No, and he's something that they don't have, which is, I think to his extent of what he could potentially do in the middle of the field, I think that he's very unique. So I do believe that Tata is going to know how to play it. I think that I like Gressel as a right back. You've seen Tata do a lot of things with that position. So I have no doubt that he's going to figure it out. I do like the over against Montreal. I think it's going to be one that maybe it's a 3-1, 4-1 type of situation. The LA Galaxy game is interesting for me too. I would like to say the LAG wins because they've been so good. I think Pencil gives them a lightning bolt that they haven't had on the outside in a very long time. I think he makes everybody around him better. I like his vision. I like the intelligence. We'll see what happens when Peck comes back and see if we begin to see Triple P, because Fagundes has also been playing really well. Fagundes gives out a great outlet for those overlapping runs. But I think LAG, to my surprise, has looked very, very good. But I think Nashville probably does make this really uncomfortable. It's hard to run behind defenders when they're already there and they're not moving. No. So if you don't give Pencil where to run, it might be a difficult game for LAG. So I do like the draw on that one as well.
To answer your question, that 3.5 for Messi and Friends in Montreal is where it flips to the plus side at a plus 143 at 3.5. So that's your flip where it goes from minus to plus. So 3.5, which you thought you were pretty comfortable at, that's a plus 143, and then it goes up from there.
4.5 might not be enough for it. The over kind of bit me in the back against Columbus, and actually the juice boxes in general, because I have Columbus winning, and that late goal really bit me in the back.
Well, yeah, and you ain't the only one, brother. 4.5 for the records of plus 329. All right, hit the promo for me since we are in stoppage time. What's going on with Pulso Sports and the Soccer Bar?
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Pulso Sports, we have a little recap of the week. What happened before was going to happen against Philadelphia, some health things that go on with the Sounders. I'm going to start doing something called After the Final Whistle because people want me to do a little bit more breakdowns post-game. I didn't do that at the stadium, so I ended up doing it at Long Acres with Jeremiah O'Shan for Sounder Are Hard. So that's going to be up here in about 30 minutes or so. Check that out. Really good one. We talk about, 12, 15 minutes, possibilities, young players, depth, where this team is at, Don't jump off your balcony just yet. A whole bunch of things for this Sounders team. Obviously, we have voices from Jordan Morris, as well as Josh Atencio, and then we have a Spanish full exclusive with Javier Arriaga. That's really good. That should be up by the afternoon today.
Looking forward to it as always, my brother. It is great to catch up with you on Thursdays and get the Pacific perspective and see how things are going out there. We will be back at it again with Thursdays with Niko at El Rolo and W on the 280 Character app this same time next week. Be safe and well, my friend.
Thank you, John. Have a good one.
All right, that's Niko. And so Niko is going to go back and get his second cup of coffee. And so, all right, now it's time for us to go through all the headlines before we go. Reminder once again that 5:30 and 7:30 are the live matches tonight for the high school games of the week. It's an extra one this week. And because we're kind of getting toward the end of the regular season, there might be some 3-match weeks. This is one of those weeks. Coming up 5:30 and 7:30, Clarkston and Druid Hills, two teams in the top 10 in Class 4A. 5:30 and 7:30. That is at soccerdownhere.mixlr.com. And tomorrow, also 5:30 and 7:30 out in Gwinnett County, it is Collins Hill and Mill Creek. You can listen to Soccer's in Session later on the network on Spreaker and all of your favorite podcatchers, and set your notifications, and you can get Soccer's in Session, where we get you the preview for the matchups on Friday as well. Now, also, before we get into other things, I mentioned opening kickoff. There's the scarf, once again, for our friends from the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. If you are interested in helping out the last country on this planet assemble their soccer program, that's the scarf. It's a summer scarf. I think a winter scarf or a thick scarf in the Marshall Islands would probably be somewhat counterintuitive. So we did a summer scarf for our friends at the Marshall Islands. There it is. You can DM the show. You can DM me. You can shoot me a note on Twitter. You can email me, email the show, whatever. If you are interested in helping out the Marshall Islands, that is $32. And if it is local, Abby will drive it to you. Local meaning here in the Atlanta area. If you are outside the Atlanta area and you want it mailed to you, it's like an extra $5. We'll go to the post office and put it in an envelope, an extra $5. So 32 if you're local here in the Atlanta area, 32 plus 5 if you're outside the Atlanta area, or if you just want it mailed. Then you can help out the Marshall Islands, show your support, and you can get the full description at the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation website, where you get to see Maddie Cruz model the scarf to an international audience. And so once again, help out the last nation on the planet as they build their soccer program. You get the scarf right there, 32 or 32 plus 5 if you want it shipped. So, all right, let's get into headlines before we go. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch and where to watch it. We mentioned what's going on with FFP and profit and sustainability, and that Chelsea might be in trouble, and that Newcastle might be in trouble, in addition to Everton and Nottingham Forest. Now, when Martin Ziegler has a byline over at the Times, you know it's something big. Nottingham Forest have been charged for their behavior towards referee Paul Tierney after Liverpool's winner at the weekend. No action has been taken against the club's owner, Evangelos Marinakis, for his post-match confrontation. Forest's assistant coach, Stephen Reed, has also been charged for using insulting and abusive language both before and after he was shown the red card during the protests of the 99th minute winner. Marinakis went on the pitch at the final whistle, followed Tierney down the tunnel, though it's understood that there is no mention of him in the referee's report. FA spokesperson came up with a couple of sentences. Forest and Stephen Reed have until March 13th to respond. And once again, Nunez, 99th minute winner, came 2 minutes later. Ball had gone out of play. Forest were furious as they claimed the mistake of not giving them the drop ball, which should have happened. We talked to Bart about it on Monday. Tierney will not referee a match this weekend in the Premier League, but will be VAR for Arsenal and Brentford on Saturday. Mark Clattenburg, and this caught a little bit of heat. Clattenburg, who is now a referee analyst for Forest because of what happened in the Ivan Toney incident for the match against Brentford, where Ivan Toney moved the ball. Forest has brought in Clattenburg as an analyst. Clattenburg, quote, They should have had the ball back. If the referee stops the game, he has to give the ball back to the team in possession that was forced when it's given to the keeper. With Liverpool scoring afterwards, you can see why they were aggrieved. I haven't spoken to the referee. I'll leave that to the club. I went to go into the referee's dressing room, but he, meaning Tierney, wouldn't allow it. Well, of course, because you're a civilian, sir. And just because you have a history does not mean that you can drop in and say hi just because you want to. So now that, and especially now that you're a rules analyst or a reffing analyst for Nottingham Forest, that's not going to go over well. So charged, Evangelinus Marinakis, not written up, not in the report, but now you have the club and Stephen Reed until 6 days from now, next Thursday, to respond to the charges that were written up by the FA. Also, let's see. Details of the Sam Kerr allegations have emerged. We're going to the Guardian. We're not going to the 3 or the 4 letter paper to talk about it. From Guardian reporters. The racial slur Matilda superstar Sam Kerr is alleged to have used against a British police officer was, quote, stupid white bastard, end quote, according to sources with the knowledge of the case. And remember, we talked to you about her appearing via video link in a Kingston Crown Court, accused of using insulting, threatening, or abusive words that caused alarm or distress to a police officer back over a year ago. Entered a not guilty plea. Alleged exchange with the officer came after Kerr became involved in a dispute about a taxi fare after a night out in southwest London. Police called to the scene, and it is then understood by sources with knowledge of the case, Kerr allegedly used that phrase that we referenced. Emma Hayes said on Wednesday Kerr had the club's full support. Club has so far refused to make any direct comment, but Hayes made her position clear when asked about it at a scheduled media press conference on Wednesday. Once again, Sam has our full support. She knows that. And then a couple of sentences later, set to stand trial on charges in February of 2025. So it will have been 2 years from incident to being in court. She may not have to face trial because her legal team's planning to have the charge downgraded or dismissed. Argue an abusive process by Crown prosecutors, according to multiple media reports, with a hearing set for April 26. So that's what we'll keep an eye on with that. Let's see. News and features. Manchester City beat Copenhagen 3-1, 6-2 on aggregate. We've got a lot of activity with Europa League, Europa Conference League. All of that stuff is today. So getting into the numbers, and once again, you can follow along on a bunch of different platforms, but I would suggest Golasso Network or CBS Sports Network because of the Golasso show, where they take you and it's a whip around and you're all over the place. Europa League matchups, 12:45. You've got 3. You've got 4 of them going on at 3 o'clock. Roma hosting Brighton, favored at a +121. Bayer Leverkusen, big favorite on the road against our friends from Karabag, basically a +700. Sparta Prague and Liverpool favored at a -137. That's your 12:45s. 3 o'clock. Milan, big favorite at home against Slavia Prague. Benfica, big favorite at home against Rangers. Freiburg, West Ham, basically they're saying it's a draw. Both teams to win in the neighborhood of +173. Marseille hosting Villarreal. Marseille's favored at a -119. And then next week, playoffs or matchup number 8 with Atalanta and Sporting. Atalanta is favored at a +110. Conference League. That is going on today. And you got 4 at 12:45 and 4 at 3 o'clock. Villa favored on the road at Ajax at a -139. Club Brugge at a +143, favored at Molde. Olympiacos -154 hosting Maccabi Tel Aviv. Lille favored on the road at a +119 at Sturm Graz. Those are your 12:45s. 3 o'clock. Dinamo Zagreb favored at home against PAOK Salonika. Fiorentina favored on the road at Maccabi Haifa. Royal Union favored at home against Fenerbahce at a +127. Our friends at Servette, they are favored at home against Victoria Pilsen at a +125. So those are the those are your juice boxes for Europa League, Europa Conference League later today, once again kicking off at 12:45. Gareth Southgate, Thomas Frank among the options being considered by Manchester United if they choose to replace Erik ten Hag at the end of the year. Barcelona remain interested in Mikel Arteta to replace Xavi, but the Spanish club know it'll be difficult to appoint him. That's from our friends at Relevo. Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester City battling it out for Joshua Kimmich, looking to leave in the summer. Any club wanting to hire De Zerbi would have to pay Brighton £12.8 million. Barcelona, Liverpool, Manchester United interested. Spain defender Marc Cucurella expected to be one of several big names sold by Chelsea this summer. We got into their money problems, so you'll know that. Bayern Munich ahead of Liverpool in the race to appoint Xabi Alonso if he chooses to leave Bayer Leverkusen. Manchester City fullback Joao Cancelo wants to extend his Barcelona beyond this year. Liverpool interested in appointing Richard Hughes as sporting director after he confirmed he's going to leave his Bournemouth TD position at the end of the season. Seen as more likely to go to Newcastle, while Frederick Massara, who was director of football at AC Milan, and Nice sporting director Florent Gisolfi, others Liverpool could consider. Liverpool, Borussia Dortmund, PSG, keen on Alan Varela, but will have to pay Porto his £60 million release clause. Joe Ellington wants to stay in the Premier League if they can't agree to a deal beyond 25 with Newcastle. Chelsea keen to sign Athletic Bilbao winger Niko Williams. Spanish forward has a release clause, could mean he's available for £43 million in the summer. Also on Arsenal's radar, along with Pedro Neto from Wolves and Brentford's Ivan Toney. Ajax's Jordan Henderson has no regrets over leaving Liverpool, saying it was the best decision for all parties. And we mentioned what's going on with Leicester City. So that's your gossip, rumor, and innuendo involving what is going on today. We mentioned what's going on with sadly with the fans at Brighton as we rolled our billboard back to 0 days since stupidity down here. So it's going to stay at 0. Hopefully we can turn the page tomorrow. Obviously, we get to turn the page on the weekend since we don't have any live shows. So we'll see. Other papers, going to the back page and avoiding the 3 and the 4-letter papers, as we always do when it comes to any information. Once again, we're checking to see if there's any other new stuff. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has questioned, quote, the lack of ambition of the petty Gen Z Manchester United players who were too scared to do pre-match interviews or accept the captaincy during his time as manager in an interview on the Stick to Football podcast. Once again, avoiding the 3-letter paper. Sir Jim Ratcliffe is planning to cut up to a quarter of Manchester United's staff in a brutal cost-cutting move. This is from the Daily Mirror. That'll kick off his regime overseeing football ops at Old Trafford. And the Independent, Liverpool facing crunch time in their attempts to hire a new sporting director. They've got to make a decision soon. And avoiding the 4-letter paper, the Athletic says Kieran Trippier is expected to miss Newcastle's next 2 matches due to a calf injury. Watford, firm interest in signing Ireland U21 Rocco Vata from Celtic. And 777, in our daily 777 update, they've told a women's basketball team in London it will not be competing in Europe next season, despite the team becoming the first British outfit to reach the last 4 of the Euro Cup. Remember, we talked about finances. Daily Express, Manchester United, Kobe Mainoo are in no rush to agree to a new contract, despite the teenager's talent and importance in Eric Ten Hag's midfield. United face getting snubbed by reported summer transfer target Matisse Tell, who's reportedly on the verge of agreeing to a new contract with Bayern Munich. Salah's chances of being involved in Liverpool's clash with Manchester City have increased in line for a return against Sparta Prague in Europa League today. And Daily Record, Celtic ready to go into battle against the SFA for Brendan Rodgers, with the Hoops boss facing a dugout ban for next month's Old Firm clash. Neil Lennon has piled pressure on pressure. Interim Aberdeen manager Neil Warnock by revealing he's ready and willing to pick up the reins at Pittodrie. And I'm sure that'll go over well. So Neil Lennon, he's ready to get back at it with Aberdeen. Hey, if Neil Warnock doesn't work out, and he hasn't worked out so far, Neil Lennon, wink, wink, ready to come back. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. How'd you do? How'd you do? So that is all that is going on. All right. Thanks to all of you that were with us today. That show was a sprint. Thanks to Maddie Cruz and the 1s and 2s. Thanks to Jarrett. Thanks to Bart Keeler, Soccer for US POD, and at Bartimus Prime 19 for talking about what happened late night in San Diego, late night East Coast time, early morning, late night in San Diego with the USWNT. Also, thanks to Jason, who's at practice for Atlanta United as they're getting ready for New England Revolution. And also thanks to Keeler Hodges at the USL Show for letting us know what's on their minds as the USL Championship and the USL League One season kicks off this weekend in various forms and platforms. You got to keep the schedule straight with all of those. And thanks to Niko Moreno, as always, from our friends at the Soccer Bar and Pulso Sports to let everything go on from the Pacific perspective as we roll through match week 2 and get you ready for match week number 3. Tomorrow, outside of the Soccer Down Here Friday night game of the week with Collins Hill and Mill Creek, 9:30, our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring. Maybe we can catch up with a mogul as he's getting ready for his first ever match with Rhode Island FC. And then at 10 o'clock, we'll get you ready for the weekend with the weekend whip around, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully rather than later. We'll take you through all the matches on the weekend, go through all the juice boxes, and find out what you think as we get you ready for another week of action here in the United States. Thanks again for being a part of Soccer's Morning Show. I'm just John. Thanks to everybody that's a part of this on a daily basis. Thanks to all of you guys at SDH for being a part of the family as you always are. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning, 9:05 in 21 and a half hours almost, 21 hours and 40 minutes. Since it is the end of the show, mucho platiel, play it safe. It means I get to do this. We'll be back at it again sooner than you know it. Trust me. You can catch the audio of the show later on all of our platforms and all your favorite podcatchers. Be safe. Get some lunch. See it at 5:30 tonight for the special Thursday night presentation for the matches of the week. Back at it again, 9:05 tomorrow morning. Bye.